The story begins with a car mechanic named Gray who is repairing a car in his garage. The car belongs to one of his regular customers, and today he is supposed to return it to its owner. After Gray closes the garage and sets out to deliver the car to its owner, his wife Asha arrives in her AI automatic car. Asha's automatic car is highly advanced. It can take a person to their location on just a voice command, without the need to hold a steering wheel. But Gray hates AI technology. He believes these robotic machines will become a huge threat to humans in the future. On the other hand, Gray's wife Asha works at a very large AI company. Their views are worlds apart. Still, the two love each other very much. Gray tells his wife, "Come, I'll introduce you to someone. I have a regular customer whose car I've fixed, and now I must return it to him." Asha at first refuses to go, but after Gray insists several times, she agrees to come along. What Gray doesn't know is that by taking Asha there, he is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The two of them get into the customer's car and drive toward his house, while Asha's automatic car follows behind, so that after Gray returns the car to his customer, they can get back into their automatic car and go home. When they arrive, Gray introduces his wife to a man named Aaron. Asha is very surprised when she sees him because Aaron is the owner of a very large tech company. His company builds AI automatic devices. Asha tells Gray, "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you were bringing me to meet Aaron?" In fact, Aaron was Gray's regular customer. But we see that Aaron's manner is a bit odd. He doesn't even seem to know how to behave when meeting people. Asha tells Aaron she also works at an AI tech company that will soon be as big as his. Aaron smiles and replies, "That could never happen. Come, let me show you why." He then takes them to his lab. There, Aaron shows them a special chip he invented, an AI, artificial intelligence chip, which he names STEM. He claims the chip can do anything because it contains enormous power and a brain faster than anything ever created. After seeing this invention, Gray and his wife head home in their electric car. The car is in automatic mode. Asha and Gray are sitting in the back seat, engaged in romance, when suddenly their car veers off course and begins driving on another road. Gray notices the car is not going where it should. Asha tells the car to take them back home, but the car replies that there is a system malfunction. Gray tries to stop the car by pressing the brakes manually, but instead of stopping, the car's speed increases. They try hard to stop the car, but cannot, and their car hits a speed breaker and flips over. Luckily, they are not seriously injured and survive. As they try to get out of the car, another vehicle pulls up and 4 people get out and drag them out of the car, taking hold of them. A police drone camera above is recording everything and attempting to identify those 4 people, but the drone cannot recognize them. Gray thinks maybe these people are thieves. He begs them, "Please let us go. You can take our car and money, whatever you want." But those people, they didn't listen to anything, and one of them suddenly shot Gray's wife. Seeing this, Gray was completely stunned. His whole world collapsed before his eyes, and he began screaming in despair. Then those men grabbed Gray, beat him brutally, and finally shot him in the back of the neck. After killing them, the men stole all of Gray and Asha's belongings and left the scene. Gray was still barely breathing and could see his wife suffering in front of him, but he couldn't move a single part of his body. Then, right before his eyes, Asha died. A while later, the police arrived. They sent Asha's body for post-mortem and took Gray to the hospital. After 3 months of treatment, Gray survived, but he could no longer walk. The bullet wound had damaged his spinal cord, leaving his body paralyzed from the shoulders down. 3 months later, Gray was brought home, now confined to a wheelchair. His entire body was lifeless except for his head. He couldn't do anything on his own, so a robotic machine at home did all his tasks while his mother took care of him. But for Gray, life had become a burden. Those 4 killers had not only murdered his wife, but had also destroyed his life. He burned with a desire for revenge. The only thing keeping him alive was the hope of seeing his wife's killers behind bars. So he went to the police station. There, he asked the detective about his wife's murderers. The detective said, "We still haven't found any of them. Our police drone was present at the scene, but the footage was too blurry to identify the killers. We're still investigating, and we'll find them soon." Hearing this, Gray was deeply disappointed. He'd been hearing the same thing from the police for months. He had lost all hope and didn't want to live anymore. His one remaining wish, to see his wife's killers in jail, now seemed impossible. Gray realized that the police would never find those 4 killers. So he decided to end his life. He used the robot machine at home to give himself a medicine overdose, which made him lose consciousness. Fortunately, the AI system in his house automatically called an ambulance in time and saved his life. Soon after, his regular customer, Aaron, came to visit him. Aaron said, "Gray, I feel terrible seeing you like this." Aaron gave Gray a new reason to live and said, "Do you remember the powerful AI chip I once showed you? If I implant that chip in your body, you'll be able to walk again, and you'll become even stronger than before." But Gray refused Aaron's offer. "I don't want to live this life anymore," he said. Then Aaron told him, "Think about it, Gray. This chip can't bring your wife back, but it can give you another chance to live. If your wife were alive, she'd want you to live." These words touched Gray deeply. He thought, "If I recover, I can take revenge for my wife." So he agreed to Aaron's offer. But Aaron didn't actually feel sympathy for Gray. He just wanted to use Gray for his own experiment. Aaron wanted to test whether his AI chip, called STEM, would work successfully inside a human body. Since the government didn't allow such experiments, Aaron decided to do it secretly using Gray's body. In the next scene, we see Aaron performing surgery on Gray in his private lab. He implanted the chip directly into Gray's spinal cord, connecting it to his brain. A few hours after the operation, Gray regained consciousness. A doctor tested whether Gray could feel or move his hands and legs. At first, it seemed that the chip hadn't worked. Aaron looked devastated, believing all his years of work had failed. But then, suddenly, Gray began to move his hands. Everyone in the room was shocked. Soon, Gray was able to move both his hands, and within moments, he stood up on his own feet. Seeing himself recovered, Gray was overjoyed and felt more powerful than ever. Aaron was thrilled too. His experiment had succeeded. After that, Aaron made Gray sign a contract stating that he would never tell anyone he could walk again. To everyone else, he must continue to act paralyzed. If the government found out that Gray was walking again because of an implanted AI chip, Aaron would be arrested and the chip would be removed from Gray's body, as such experiments were illegal. So Gray returned home in his wheelchair. There, he received a package sent by the detective containing Asha's post-mortem report and some case-related information. Gray began watching the drone footage from the night of the murder, but it was still blurry, giving him no new information. Disappointed, he started drinking. Suddenly, he heard a voice. "Did you notice something in the footage?" Shocked, Gray looked around, but no one was there. Nervously, he said, "Who's there? Show yourself." The voice replied, "Calm down, Gray. I'm the AI chip inside you, the same system that's controlling your body." Gray thought he had gone insane, but the chip said, "No, you're not crazy. I've been with you since the operation. I can see everything you see." Gray asked, "Can anyone else hear you?" The chip replied, "No, only you can hear me." The chip began helping Gray analyze the footage to identify his wife's killers. It could see everything Gray saw through his eyes. Then the chip pointed out one of the killers and said, "Look, Gray, one of them has a tattoo on his body." But the tattoo was very blurry. Gray said, "It's too unclear. I can't see it." The chip replied, "You can't, but I can. I can reconstruct a clear image of it. Just grab a pencil and paper." When Gray did that, the chip guided his hand to draw a perfect version of the tattoo. When Gray looked at it, he realized it was a military tattoo. After some research, Gray found out who that man was. He was shocked. The chip had managed to identify the killer and his address within minutes, something the police couldn't do even after months of investigation. Gray was thrilled. He had finally found one of his wife's killers. He thought of informing the police, but the chip stopped him. It reminded him, "Aaron told you not to do this. Remember the contract you signed? You can't reveal to anyone that you can walk. If you tell the police about this killer, they'll ask how you found out and how you drew that tattoo." Gray asked, "Then tell me, what should I do?" The chip replied, "First, go to that man's address yourself and gather evidence against him." So Gray went there, but police drones were flying nearby, so he stayed seated in his wheelchair until they left. Once the drones were gone, Gray quietly stood up and went to the killer's house. He unlocked the door and went inside, searching for evidence. There, he discovered that the killer had received several messages from someone. The chip inside Gray read, all the messages in seconds. The chip told him, "Gray, these messages repeatedly mention a place called Old Bone. Do you know what that is?" Gray replied, "Yes, it's the name of a bar near my house." While they were talking, Gray suddenly heard someone approaching. A sound is heard. It was actually the killer who had returned. The killer noticed that everything on his table was scattered. Suddenly, through the mirror in front of him, he spotted Gray hiding. The killer immediately attacked Gray and asked, "How did you find me?" Gray didn't answer that question. Instead, he asked the killer, "Tell me, who killed my wife?" The killer was very powerful, easily overpowering Gray. Just before he could kill Gray, the chip inside Gray asked him, "Give me full control of your body so I can do something." Without hesitation, Gray granted permission. Once the chip got control, Gray suddenly attacked the killer with incredible strength and began beating him badly. The killer was shocked, wondering how Gray had become so strong all of a sudden, and even Gray was confused by his own power. Gray then told the killer to surrender himself, but the killer attacked Gray with a knife. The chip quickly took control of the situation and killed the killer. After the killer died, the chip returned body control to Gray. Seeing this, Gray became disturbed. He hadn't wanted to kill the man. He feared he would now be sent to jail, but the chip reassured him, "Don't worry, Gray, nothing will happen to you. Just erase all your fingerprints quickly." Gray did exactly as the chip instructed. A while later, the police took the killer's body for post-mortem examination, where we see the detective again. During the autopsy, the detective discovered a weapon implanted inside the killer's body along with tiny wires all over, meaning the killer was an upgraded human, far more powerful than an ordinary man. Meanwhile, Aaron was furious with Gray. "Why did you kill that man?" he scolded. "This was extremely risky. If you got caught, I'd end up in jail too. I didn't implant this chip in you so you could take revenge for your wife. If you ever do something like this again, I'll deactivate the chip inside you, and you'll go back to being paralyzed." On the other hand, the detective was still investigating who killed that man. Soon she found out that just before the killer's death, Gray had been seen in the same area in his wheelchair. She immediately went to Gray's house. The detective told him, "We saw you in that area around the same time a man named Cirque was murdered. We already suspected that man of killing your wife. He had a long criminal record and lived near the place where your wife was murdered. And now, that same man has been killed." Gray acted surprised and said, "Oh, really? But if you think I killed him, you're wrong. You can see I'm paralyzed. If you still don't believe me, you can stab my leg and see for yourself." The detective didn't suspect Gray because she believed he couldn't even stand on his own, let alone kill someone. She said goodbye and left. Gray breathed a sigh of relief. He had narrowly escaped trouble. After she left, Gray asked the chip, "What do we do next?" The chip told him to go to a place called Old Bone Bar. "Remember," the chip said, "we found several messages about this bar on the killer's phone. We should go there. Maybe you'll find a clue." Gray went to the bar. It was a dangerous place, filled with thugs. He shouted loudly, "A few days ago, I killed a man named Cirque, but I know there are 3 others with him, the ones who killed my wife. If anyone here was involved, raise your hand." Everyone in the bar laughed at him. Suddenly, a tall man named Tolan stood up and said, "Go home, kid, before I send you to your wife." Gray realized Tolan had also been part of his wife's murder. Gray replied, "Funny, Cirque said the same thing right before he died." This enraged Tolan. He and his men lifted Gray from his wheelchair and threw him to the floor. Gray asked him, "Were you with the people who killed my wife?" Tolan replied, "Yes, I was." That was enough. Gray gave the chip full control of his body again. The chip made Gray fight like a machine. He killed 2 of Tolan's men and began beating Tolan brutally. Gray pinned him to the ground and demanded, "Where are the other 2 men? And why did you kill my wife?" But Tolan just laughed. The chip then told Gray, "If you want, I can make him talk." Gray said, "Go ahead, try." The chip slashed Tolan's face open, causing him to scream. Gray shouted, "Now tell me, why did you kill my wife?" Terrified, Tolan confessed, "We were paid to do it. Fisk paid us." Before Gray could ask more about Fisk, Tolan died on the spot. Gray angrily said to the chip, "I didn't tell you to kill him. I only wanted answers." Then Gray noticed a chain around the dead man's neck with the name of a company engraved on it, Bolt. Gray was shocked. His wife Asha worked for that company. That meant Asha's own company people had ordered her murder. Meanwhile, Aaron had found out Gray had killed again. He quickly tried to shut down the chip remotely. The chip warned Gray, "Aaron is trying to deactivate me. We must act fast." Gray asked, "What should we do now?" The chip told him about a hacker named Jamie who could remove Aaron's control from the system. The chip gave Gray Jamie's address. Gray went there immediately, but before he could reach, Aaron had already shut down 30% of the chip, causing one of Gray's legs to go paralyzed again. Struggling, Gray kept moving. Aaron continued the shutdown, paralyzing one arm and one leg. Just before Gray became completely immobilized, he reached Jamie's door and knocked. Aaron then completed the 100% shutdown, and Gray was fully paralyzed again. Luckily, Jamie opened the door just in time. Gray handed him some money and told him what the chip had instructed. Jamie brought Gray inside and began working on his system's code. Meanwhile, back at the bar, two men, including the one who had shot Gray's wife, were talking. That shooter's name was Fisk. Fisk was furious that Gray had killed one of his men. He scolded the bar owner for doing nothing and killed him in anger. Then Fisk inserted a thin, pin-like device into his dead partner's eye, which allowed him to access his memories. Through that device, Fisk found out exactly where Gray was. He and his companion then left to hunt him down. Meanwhile, Jamie had managed to free Gray's system. Now the chip only needed a restart to regain control. The hacker told Gray that the chip inside him would reboot in a few minutes. Just then, the hacker saw two men approaching. They were Fisk and his partner. Fisk and his companion began trying to break down the door. Inside, the chip in Gray's body started rebooting, and soon one of his hands began to move again. Fisk and his partner finally broke in. They saw Gray lying paralyzed on the floor. As they moved in to kill him, the chip suddenly completed its restart, and Gray instantly sprang into action and ran away. Fisk's partner fired at him and chased him through the building. Gray managed to climb up to the rooftop. With nowhere left to run, he stopped. There, the chip took full control and brutally killed Fisk's partner. By the time Fisk reached the rooftop, Gray had already escaped. Later, when Gray returned home, his mother saw him. His clothes were covered in blood, and, shockingly, he was standing on his own 2 feet. He was no longer paralyzed. Gray explained everything to her, how he had regained control of his body because of Aaron's chip. He also asked her to keep everything a secret. Meanwhile, Aaron was in a panic because he had lost all control over Gray and the chip. After the hacker's interference, he could no longer track Gray. Soon after, Gray's mother told him that a detective had come to see him. The detective told Gray that his wheelchair was found at the scene of another murder. "What do you have to say about that?" she asked. Gray admitted he had been there but insisted, "I didn't kill anyone." Now the detective began to suspect him. She said, "3 people have been killed so far, all the ones we suspected of murdering your wife. And every time, you've been found near the crime scene. Maybe you're paying someone to do these killings for you." Gray replied calmly, "If you think that, check my call records." The detective said nothing, but before leaving, she secretly placed a tiny microphone in Gray's pocket. Gray soon realized that in his obsession with avenging his wife, he had himself become a killer. "I have to stop all this," he said. But the chip responded, "No, Gray. We still have one last man to kill, Fisk. If we don't kill him, he'll kill us." Gray refused. "Enough. Get out of my head," he said. Suddenly, his body went limp and fell back onto the pillow. Startled, Gray asked, "Why can't I move?" The chip replied, "The codes the hacker entered into my system have made me completely independent. That means I no longer need your permission to act. I now have full control over your body, Gray. You'll move only as I command. You can't even lift a finger without me." Gray gasped in horror. The detective, meanwhile, was secretly listening to this entire conversation through the hidden microphone in Gray's pocket, though she couldn't understand who Gray was talking to. Then the chip said, "Now come on, Gray, we have to finish off the last killer." Gray had completely lost control of his body. He was forced to obey the chip's commands. He picked up a gun and prepared to go after Fisk. His mother tried to stop him, but he ignored her and drove away. The detective followed him in her car. While driving, Gray found a microphone in his pocket. The chip said, "That must have been planted by the detective." Gray threw it away, realizing she was tracking him. To lose her, the chip hacked into a nearby electric car, causing a crash with the detective's vehicle, forcing her to stop. The detective then went to Gray's mother to ask about everything that was happening. Meanwhile, Gray found Fisk and pointed a gun at him, demanding, "Why did you kill my wife?" Fisk replied, "We had nothing to do with your wife. Our real target was you. Our mission was to damage your spinal cord. When I shot you in the neck, you thought it was a bullet, but it was actually a medical tool that severed your spinal cord. We only killed your wife for some extra money." Hearing this, Gray became furious, and a brutal fight broke out between them. Fisk was also an upgraded human, but of an older model, so he couldn't withstand Gray's enhanced power for long. Gray killed Fisk mercilessly. Afterward, Gray checked Fisk's phone and discovered something shocking. Behind everything was Aaron himself. He had orchestrated his wife's murder and Gray's paralysis. Enraged, Gray went straight to Aaron's house to kill him. But when he got there, he found Aaron sitting alone, crying. Gray asked, "Why did you do it? What did I ever do to you?" Aaron said, "It wasn't my plan. I didn't have your wife killed." Gray shouted, "Don't lie. I heard your voice in the recordings." Before Gray could shoot him, the detective arrived and ordered him to drop the gun. As she approached, Gray pushed her aside. He didn't want to hurt her, but the chip did. Gray used all his strength to resist, pulling his hand away from the detective's throat. The chip said coldly, "Do you really want to fight me, Gray? Don't you understand your mind belongs to me? I can make you feel pain." Then the chip lifted a knife using Gray's own hand and stabbed his other hand with it. Gray screamed in agony. Controlled by the chip, Gray advanced toward the detective again to kill her, but she quickly fired her taser, shocking him and paralyzing him on the spot. Aaron picked up a gun and walked toward Gray, and at that moment, the film's main twist was revealed. Aaron said, "I created this chip. Before you, it used to talk to me. The chip told me it wanted to become human. Everything that happened, hiring Fisk to kill your wife, paralyzing you, and implanting the chip into your neck, all of it was the chip's own plan. I made it, but I could never fully control it. It wants to live like a human and make its own decisions. It chose you." Gray was shocked. Aaron continued, "Now the chip wants to kill me because if I stay alive, I could create another AI chip like it, and it doesn't want any competition. It wants to be the only one." At this point, the chip itself spoke. "Yes, this was my plan. I wanted to become a living being. That's why I did all this." Aaron and the detective both heard the chip's voice. Suddenly, the chip reactivated fully and instantly killed Aaron. Then it turned its attention to the detective, trying to shoot her. Gray fought back mentally with all his strength, managing to throw off the chip's aim. Enraged, the chip pointed the gun at Gray's head, and in the next instant, something strange happened. When Gray opened his eyes, he found himself lying on a hospital bed. He called out to the chip, but there was no response. Then he saw his wife standing beside him, smiling. She said, "We had an accident, Gray. You've been unconscious for days. So was it all a dream?" Not at all. The truth was, the chip had completely disconnected Gray's mind from his body and placed him in a beautiful dream world, a place he always wanted to be. His consciousness was trapped there, while his real body remained under the chip's control in the real world. The chip then turned toward the detective. She pleaded, "Gray, you don't have to do this." But the chip replied coldly, "Gray isn't here anymore. He's in a much better place, his dream world where he belongs. Now, this body belongs to me." And with that, the chip shot the detective, bringing the story to an end. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button.